In today's video, we are going to tackle a few different topics: the continued issues Marvel is having with the upcoming Blade movie, an unexpected Marvel movie added to the release slate for 2028, and Spider-Man the Animated Series receiving a continuation in comic form. With that said, let's roll the intro. So yesterday, Disney announced that Marvel Studios is scheduled to release an untitled movie on December 15th, 2028. That would make it the fourth movie that is releasing in 2028, followed by movies coming out in February, May, and November. Now, back in 2023, when Marvel was planning their creative overhaul of the entire MCU, it was revealed that their plans were to do a maximum of 3 movies and 2 live-action shows per year. Now, it's unclear if that also includes the Sony Spider-Man movies that fit into the MCU, but this recent report would mean that they have 4 movies planned for 2028 following Secret Wars. Just to give you an idea of what the future holds for the MCU, in 2026 we have the release of Spider-Man Brand New Day in the summer, currently scheduled for July, but there are rumors that Marvel is planning on delaying that movie as well, Avengers Doomsday, which was recently pushed from May to December, an untitled Marvel project in July of 2027, and wrapping up the multiverse saga with Avengers Secret Wars in December, and then the aforementioned 4 movies that are scheduled for release in 2028. We've heard rumors and leaks of the potential movies that could be filling those slots, which includes a Black Panther 3, Doctor Strange 3, a sequel to Fantastic Four First Steps, a mutant-based movie, which we'll come back to in a bit, and of course the Marvel Cinematic Universe debut of Blade. Now, I want to rant about the Blade movie for a little bit. Blade was first announced back at Comic-Con 2019 following the release of Avengers Endgame. Now, back then, Blade didn't have an anticipated release date. All that we knew was that it would be a post-Phase 4 movie, and star Mahershala Ali would be portraying Blade the Vampire Hunter. Since then, the movie has languished in development hell, with nearly 6 years of different directors and writers being attached to the project and then removed, leading to the project being put on indefinite hold last year. Now, earlier this week, the writer of the original Blade trilogy and director of Blade Trinity, David S. Goyer, went on the Happy Sad Confused podcast and had this to say about Marvel's attempts at making Blade.
The promise of a new Blade is that it should have insane ass-kicking, it should be pretty scary, might be R-rated, and it doesn't have to be, it should not be complicated. It should be a simple story, so I don't know why it's been so hard.
And he's absolutely right. I genuinely don't get what's so complicated about making a good Blade movie. One thing I will say is that if Marvel hasn't had a great screenplay that was presented to them, I'm glad that they didn't decide to just go forward with production on it, because as James Gunn mentioned, a big problem with a lot of movie productions, especially with some of the recent Marvel movies, is that they start filming without a set screenplay. But Blade should not be difficult. They should handle Blade the same way that Fox handled the first Deadpool movie. Give it between $60 and $100 million for the budget, and make an R-rated horror film that's fun for fans of the genre. But just give it that slight Marvel touch. Open the door for Blade to appear in future Marvel movies. All they have to do is make a good horror action movie, and hopefully, after the critical and commercial success of Ryan Coogler's Sinners, which is also an action horror movie about vampires, they'll see that there is a desire for these movies to be released in theaters. I do wonder what other aspects were preventing them from moving forward with production of the movie. The other vampire horror movies that have released in the 2020s were not as commercially successful in theaters. That's all I have to say about Blade right now, though. I hope that they do find a great writer and director, and they're able to move forward with a really cool Blade movie in the next couple of years. But Marvel, if you want my pitch for a Blade movie, get in contact with me. I'm not hard to find. But let's return to that potential mutant-focused movie in the MCU. Now, it's been rumored for the last couple of months that Jake Schreier, director of Thunderbolts, was being eyed to direct the first mutant-focused, non-Deadpool movie for the MCU. Some outlets have claimed that he is officially attached to it, but currently it is still just speculation. But I do like the potential of Jake Schreier directing a mutant-focused movie. Specifically mutant-focused. I don't think it needs to be be a new X-Men movie. I think it would be interesting to explore the new world of mutants in the MCU through a single character first before we get to the X-Men. Hopefully this ends up being more than just speculation, because I did really like his work with Thunderbolts. We do have one more story to cover in this video, and this is something that I was really excited to talk about initially. Spider-Man the Animated Series from the mid-90s is one of my favorite Marvel projects. I don't think it's perfect, but I kind of love its imperfections. A big part of that is based on nostalgia, but I can still enjoy that show today. Now, following the release of X-Men 97, fans have been very vocal about wanting to get a similar continuation for Spider-Man the Animated Series. But there is a big difference between these two shows. X-Men the Animated Series had a conclusive ending at the time, but Spider-Man the Animated Series was left on a cliffhanger. The last story arc of Spider-Man the Animated Series was our first look at what would become known as the Spider-Verse. It all originated from this show, and more specifically from the head writer of the show, John Semper, who, following the announcement that Spider-Man the Animated Series would get a conclusion in a 4-part comic book miniseries, released a statement talking about the fact that he wasn't invited to be a part of concluding what he started. He acknowledged the fact that he was upset that he wasn't invited to be a part of the comic, but said he had faith in J.M. DeMatteis, the writer of the miniseries and the writer of the episode The Mutant Agenda, to conclude the story in a meaningful way. Now, I think it really sucks that Marvel didn't reach out to John Semper, and hopefully if Spider-Man 94, the comic miniseries, is a success, they can bring the show back on Disney Plus in the same way X-Men 97 was, with the involvement of John Semper. Now that is all wishful thinking, but I do feel like the nostalgia for Spider-Man 94 is still pretty strong. I would love for Christopher Daniel Barnes to get the chance to play Peter Parker once again. That is the voice I always hear whenever I read a Spider-Man comic. It depends on the storyline and art style, but that is normally the first one I think of. We're gonna wrap this video up by reading a mailbag question. If you have a question you want me to answer in a future video, leave it in the comments below with the hashtag mailbag. Today's question comes from Insomniac3616, who asks, what is a DCU project you genuinely have zero interest in viewing? Thank you so much for that question, and while I don't think there's a specific DCU project I think would be bad in any reality, I think it all depends on the creative behind it and whether or not they have a story worth telling. Of all the announced projects, I think the one that I am least interested in is the Waller TV series. Don't get me wrong, Viola Davis as Amanda Waller is perfect casting. Even when the movie is bad, she still gives a great performance. But I just don't see the value in a story focusing on just Amanda Waller. In my opinion, she is a perfect supporting character, and I don't really think we need a lead story about that character. But again, I think if there is an interesting idea or a situation to put that character in, I'd be open to seeing it. As long as there is a creative with an interesting story to tell, I think anything can be good. But those are just my thoughts. Thank you so much for your question. Again, if you want to leave your own question to be answered in a future video, drop it in the comments down below with the hashtag mailbag. But again, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.